and welcome to episode 559 of the God is a Geek podcast. And if you are watching this in video form, if that's a thing that you like, yes, I was also watching it going, that wasn't last year, was it, that game? It was. My name's Adam Cook and I'm here with Lyle Pendle, Mick Fraser and Steve Chambers. Hello everyone, you right?
Hey, how you doing?
No, come on, listen, don't let Steve off like that. You're all supposed to talk at the same time and really throw him off.
I thought you'd invited Kevin Smith to the podcast. I thought that's what we were doing.
Oh dear.
Hollywood director Kevin Smith. Hollywood rebel Kevin Smith.
I'll admit, I knew that Steve was going to be here today and then forgot and was really surprised when I joined the call.
Who the hell is that?
Interesting choice of words. You could have said really excited or really pleased, but surprised.
Surprised. You can
Surprised.
take surprised in any number of ways,
I'm
can't
happy
you?
to see you. Shocked.
I like to do that too.
Flabbergasted to see you.
I like that Steve's probably sat there going, I really thought they edited this stuff. This is
No.
the podcast.
This is not what I
it. This is-
expected.
Yeah.
No, this is just
It's
what we do.
it's a Happy New Year, everyone who's listening or watching, and you guys, Happy New Year to you guys.
And to you,
still,
dude.
I think
Happy
there's
New
actually
Year.
limitations on that. You can still say it, can't you?
I think
I
so. I don't
guess
think
we
it
don't
offends
have a legal
anybody
say.
yet.
No, I didn't mean. Fuck it. I didn't
How
mean it would
fucking
offend-
dare you?
I meant, is it too? What time is the cutoff? What's the cutoff for you guys? Is there a time where you like, if someone says it, you roll your eyes?
Yeah.
31st
Midnight
of
02,
December.
January 1st. Yeah.
When I forget to stop putting it at the bottom of emails, like, yeah, I've done now. Fuck it.
That's the big thing in it. Is like when do you stop?
I tell you what it is, if you work in a factory, if you work in that kind of environment and you go into work on the first day back, you have to go through the same conversation about 17 times.
Oh God, yeah.
That's when you hit a cut-off point really quick. Like on the fifth time somebody said, how was your break? How are the kids? How was your Christmas? And I'm done now.
I'd like
Happy
to
New
Sorry,
Year,
you just went
everyone.
fine,
Anyway,
thanks.
Happy New Year,
As
everyone.
someone who has never worked in a factory, all I can
January
imagine
the
now
15th.
is Mick in like dungarees, sweating and hitting iron with
Oh
a
yeah,
big
t-shirt,
hammer.
no
just
shirt,
dungarees.
no
Yeah.
t-shirt,
No
just the
t-shirt, just
dungarees.
dungarees.
Man,
Yeah,
shit.
with a big hammer dripping with grease. Yes,
Yeah, no, I'm
almost
imagining
exactly,
that.
almost exactly how you're
Oh.
imagining it, Lyle. Take that to
Blimey,
Knew it.
no, I'm imagining
It's a
that
thought and a
quite a
half.
lot. I'll have to have a good imagine of that later. We should talk about some games. It's always a weird time over sort of the Christmas holiday period to like. Sometimes you sort of don't want to play any games. Sometimes you want to play all the games. Sometimes you just carry on as normal. I sort of did all of the above.
It's comfy game season. It's just like find something soft and nice for a little bit until the deluge of new stuff, essentially.
I just tried loads of new stuff. I couldn't stop. I just kept trying new games, and then
But that's
not
your
actually
MO,
sticking with them.
and Lyle's the same. Lyle, I know you like to.
This is the first year I had multiple review games for the next year, so I didn't really stop. I
yeah.
just sort of carried on.
Yeah,
playing
I will say that is. I mean, at this point, fair play. Publishers are getting their games out.
Oh yeah,
That's all I'll say. But the first game is actually, well, it's weird because it's a new game, but it's not because, in fact, Lyle, I'll hand it to you. What's this game called?
This game
Educate
is
me.
called Coward, not wanting to say it.
100%. Educate me.
This game is
Yes.
Memoire, The Oath in Felghana, which is an old game, but it is new again now. So that's good, isn't it?
So they've added, correct me if I'm wrong, they've added, obviously the visuals have had a bit of a going over. It's voice acting.
Yeah, voice acting for, I think specifically for the main character who's normally a bit quiet. He is not as quiet anymore. He says a little bit.
Yeah. So was it a PSP game or Vita game?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's
One of them.
PSP.
Okay.
It looks the same as the
Yes.
Trails games that are on the Vita. It looks almost identical to them, and it's the same people.
I vaguely
So, like,
remember. I think I might have played it back in the day because I used to play East.
yeah, so I hadn't played the first East game I played was East 9. I think it was one of a really early game that I reviewed for the site as like I'm reviewing big games now. Oh god.
We should
It's gonna take
say,
forever.
by the way, because this is actually my first Ease. That sounds so weird. That sounds really weird saying that. First Ease. Like I'm on a rave in the 90s or something.
I was going to say that admission now.
Yeah.
So try and give yourself East
like,
once.
I
twice a week.
understood the Ease. I've always called them Ys. I'll just say it. I'll admit it. But the Ease games, I've always assumed that they were just like big JRPGs.
And some of them are, yes. But this one sort of is like more. I mean, it's difficult for me to say because I've played like the two most modern ones and then this, and this is totally different. But I also think it's my favorite of all the ones I've played. So it's like it's almost a bit like hack and slashy beat 'em up, almost kind of thing. Like it's that level of super fast pace, yeah, where you're just running around ridiculously fast, mashing an attack button, and for a long time, and even later on, just pressing the attack button is a lot of what you do, really. Like, there's a few little ways to finagle it, and you get your magic as you go on, and your special abilities, and
finagle is a great word. I'm going to write that word down.
Oh, thank you. for the daily word of the day chat we have.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just I couldn't let finagle go by without commenting.
It's just really odd to me because, like I said, I literally booted this up knowing very little about it, other than it was a remake, and knowing that it was like you and Chris Hyde liked the East series, and I thought the reason that you both liked them was because they're like these. I want to say they're analogous to the Tales of games. That's what in my head. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, that's not that far off.
Okay.
What, like 9 and 10 are, maybe a little bit more.
So this is like a spin-off. It's not that I've got Yakuza or like the Dragon in the brain at the moment, but this is kind of like nowadays the main games are RPGs and the spin-offs are these actiony.
It's kind of. I think East 8 was quite actiony. I'm sure it was East 8 that was.
I mean, they're never like turn-based or anything like that. They're just sort of they're definitely a bit more focused on the whole like leveling up and stuff like that. Whereas and like learning new skills. Whereas in this, like it's almost part like Metroidvania, where most of your new skills you get are sort of to help you explore as much as they are in combat. And it's such a weird blend, and it's also a game where I'm like, I wonder what I'd have thought when this released if I'd played it then, because it doesn't necessarily feel like an old game, if you know what I mean. And I guess it's not that old, but like it just felt very fast paced, very fresh. I will say it's hard as balls. It is brutally difficult,
especially if you play it like I did.
Especially, why don't you tell us about that, Adam? I enjoyed this earlier. I know you weren't that keen on doing so I was going to make sure you did.
So I had a weird journey with this game, right? Because I really liked it. Like, straight away, it's just like, it's not... Because, I don't know, I'm sure all of us have had this in equal measures at some point with some game where you wish... Oh, could you just start already? But at the same time, you understand why it can't, because everyone's got a first Final Fantasy. So they can't just go, you know how it all works, get on with it. They have to intro it. But I do love it when a game does kind of get you into the action quickly. And this game's pretty good at that. Like, it's pretty quick, and immediately you're like, okay, the movement's fast. Again, it's a bit like, when you see a platformer that looks beautiful in a trailer and you're like, it doesn't matter until I start playing it and I feel how it plays. It's that sort of thing. And as soon as you play it, you're like, oh, the movement's quick, it's swift, everything's fast about this game. There's shitloads of numbers popping up on the screen, and like ×1 for armor and damage and experience speed. And like, I don't know what any of that is right now, but this feels good. And then I got to a boss, and it was pretty hard. Like, the bosses, I'll probably get shot for this, but they remind me a little bit of the Dark Souls games. Not in the style or how they look or how they play, in that they all have patterns, and if you can memorize those patterns and recognize the tells for those patterns, you can dominate a boss. Like, you see people do it, don't you?
And much like a series like that, you will also fight them a billion fucking times before you beat them.
Yes, like this is a game that, again, even for a game of its time, I will also say, you die, it says game over, you hit retry, bang, back at the boss fight, straight into it. Like, no huge loading screen. Like, again, for a game of its time on a handheld platform, impressive. And I got to a boss that I just could not beat, and I was confused by this because I had, in the town area, I had maxed out my early level weapons. They were like max sword, max shield, max armor, and I'm just doing no damage to this boss, like none. And I'd like, so when you die enough times, it gives you the option to like drop a difficulty, and I'm like, yeah, fine, because I like what I'm playing. I'm not gonna get. I'm. When you just are not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's
and especially if you're not reviewing a game, and it's like, well, I don't have to, do I? Like,
exactly that. So I went off, and I was like, I grinded loads, that is my only complaint about the game, is that I think it doesn't really hammer over your head that you should. So like when every time you go into a new area, this is a very sort of old school game design thing. Every time you go onto a screen, like, Zelda style screen scrolling. Every time you hit a new screen or an old screen, the enemies respawn. So they're constantly respawning. So I guess that's the clue. Like, why else would they do that? It's it's Mega Man, I suppose. Otherwise, but it doesn't really. Lyle, unless I'm missing something, I don't think it hammers that to you. Like, you should kill everything every time because XP's.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of automatically did because I knew I was leveling up, but I didn't really do much in the way of like actual grinding either. I'm more just sort of like I always killed everything when I was going back and forth. But also, I sort of found everything I needed to find before boss fights most of the time.
So I played it with a view. So there's it's in a lava area, and there is a broadsword that you find, but it's off the beaten path, and I guess you don't have to find it. And the enemies that lead to it are all quite tough. So I thought the game was saying, "Don't come this way, not yet." So I was going straight to the boss, just down and left from that, and I'm just getting hammered over and again. So I level up 4 times, which is quite a bit for one area of a game that is not the best looking part of that game. It's just lava-y and volcanic. And I was just about to give up. And then for this podcast, knowing we were going to talk about it, I was like, I got to have one more go because I was really enjoying it, man. Really enjoying it. Like, it was one of those, real disappointing moments where you walk away going, well, it's just me. I'm just shit. And I found this broadsword. And what I didn't know is that your base attack stat changes everything. So all of a sudden, this whirlwind attack I just got that was doing like 7 attacks, but doing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Now it was doing 47, 47, 47, 47, and I did the boss, and I'm like, oh.
Quite a lot different.
And then I did the next boss,
a bit of a difference.
And the boss after that, and I'm like, so now I think I may be over-leveled. But I think that's on me. And I do think it's a testament to the game's quality overall that I just really wanted to find a way through it. I would say it probably would just be a case, because like if you do beat a boss on when you drop the difficulty, and then there's a save room next to a save statue, it's still on normal difficulty. It's just dropped the difficulty for that boss, which is kind of nice, because it's like, yeah, we get it, the bosses are tougher, but at the same time, once you've started the game, you can't change your difficulty afterwards, that I could find. And that's one little clue to the age of the game, I think, because nowadays most games will be like, if you want to put it on piss easy or ultra hard because it's not hard, we're not going to make you restart the game. But I really like it, man.
That choice would be off.
Yeah, like you stick. I suppose it's a lesson in life there. You stand by your choices. But I really like this game. It's really fun. It's super fast and fun.
And I will say as well, as much as that is a you thing, I had a very similar portion of the game where I was like, I am getting absolutely battered here. Has it just got a lot harder? Right. And I had missed an item somewhere that would have, like, a bit of gear, because it kind of expects you to explore everywhere and get every bit of gear. And that's when the game is like at its so like okay, but still pretty fucking difficult like level. But if you miss a bit of gear, like, you're kind of fucked. And it's not ideal, like, it was something where I think anyone who plays through this game will probably have that happen at least once and then go, shit, okay, if it seems really hard suddenly, I should maybe backtrack and go down that other path just in case, And then once you know that, it's sort of fine. But yeah, there's a few things like that that do definitely make it show its age. There's also, like, later on, especially when you kind of, because there's not actually that many areas in the game. Like, you've seen in terms of the game, like 3 or 4 of the like 5 main areas, really. But you kind of end up going back to a lot of places and seeing, going slightly deeper into them. So, like, it encourages that backtracking, but then also your objective is never really marked. You never, like, 100% know where you're going. And if you don't pay attention, like, there was one section I mentioned in the review where there's this, like, big tower that you're in that's, like, you've got to find all these different hidden pieces to get through this big door and, get to the next big bad. And one of the pieces was I hadn't talked to a random little girl who, when I spoke to her once, was just crying a second time, and then she gave me one of the pieces of it, and nothing indicated that. I ran around for about an hour looking, like, down every single corridor going like, well, no, I've been here before. I talked to a few characters who were a bit more, like, out there a couple of extra times, and they did say a few extra things, but they didn't actually help me. And it was just that I had to talk to one random little girl an extra time to get the little trinket I needed to open a door. And
that sounds frustrating as hell.
It is, yeah. But again, testament to the game that in every other way it's so good. I mean, another benefit to this, by the way, is because it's an older game, there were guides out there that you could look up. And I'll just say, for the record, that's a good thing to have. But yeah, it definitely it's a testament to the game that I did want to play more, and always there was no chance I was putting it down. Like once I'd started it, I pretty much played it every day until it was done, and that was that because I really, really enjoyed it. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Says a lot.
I think the only thing I'd add is like if I was in charge of the remake, I think one is I've got two requests. If I'm the guy that's like getting to say, hey dev team, can we? One I think is unreasonable, or not so much unreasonable, unrealistic. I'd like there to be like an in-dungeon map. But if that's unreasonable or undoable, I would have loved just like the option, not even like a forced option, just an option in the menus to like you said, objective marker. Just tell me, because like there's what you mentioned about repeating areas. When you go back to the mines, for the third statue, can't remember, but something like that. You go back to the mines. It's like all the depths or something in area.
Yeah, and
again, not having a go because it's a mark of its time. The areas they kind of use the same geometry, the same step, the assets for the stairs. There's nothing unique. That just once you've seen it, and so you're just going down, and you're like, well, I hope this is the right way because I do remember there being a left option a bit further back, and I'm gonna, it's not a major thing, but just if you could just have the option to have like a.
For sure,
a little dot or something like a little arrow going bing, 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 like a 3D fighter, 2D fighter or something like that. So.
Old school game design, isn't it?
And I will say also the other thing that belies its age is the menus. The big old chunky kind of PS. I don't know if it's PSP. It must be PSP, I reckon. Where you have to make the menus real chunky because it's such a small little screen. That's the other thing. But it's always difficult this time of year because people are well aware that there's some huge games coming soon.
Oh yeah.
So like to say, definitely go and buy Ys Memoire in Felghana. Like it's a surprisingly good game. I think
so, 100%. And I'd say, especially if you're someone who came into the series later, like me, and want to see an older part of this series, like you can't do much better than this. Like I was really, really impressed. I was really I was really happy to see how different it was and enjoyed it the whole time. So yeah, it really works for that, and it's a good game to have that sort of like modern, now you can get it on these platforms, little booster like that hopefully makes it accessible to more people because it's fucking awesome.
It's kind of weird because, and we will move on, but one of the things it's done for me is it's now like if they announced a new Ys game, I would be like, okay, I'm interested. Whereas before, because there's quite a lot of them.
We had one not long ago, didn't we? We had was it
10 was last year.
Oh, brand new.
10 was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. 10 was brand new last year.
But I guess
that was pretty good as
well.
I think Chris reviewed it.
Yeah, probably. But like now, then I was like, I would just be like, now I'd be like, oh, go on, show me what, you know what I mean? So it's done a good job in that respect.
It's always the same protagonist in Ys as well. It's always Adol.
Add-on or Adon or...
Yeah, he goes on adventures, and then every time he goes on an adventure, something stops him from going on his adventure, and he gets trapped dealing with some bullshit, and that's his life. Yeah. But he seems to like it well enough.
I mean, that is life, is it not?
It is, yeah.
Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year.
I will say some of the dialogue and some of the dialogue and some of the character design is also slightly telling of its age, but that's. Let's move on to some more surviving. Steve, yourself and Mick have been playing a new survival game called Aloft. And let's be honest, there's a lot of survival games that launch into early access these days.
There are loads.
Why, Steve, are we talking about this one?
Well, so...
Oh, I love how serious he suddenly got.
And I was suddenly explaining this.
Doing a little turn, or arms fold.
I've got to show thoughtfulness now. Yes. So I put my first hour into this, and it was very much that whole feeling of, there's lots of these survival games, and this feels just like another one for the first 60 minutes or so. You dropped into a world, it will teach you a little about what you've got to do, go around, do a bit of mining, grab some materials, everything you would expect from an open world survival game. And I was like, okay, this seems fine. I'll enjoy it a little bit. Art style's okay. It runs nicely. Yeah, it's great. And I came back to it, and it wasn't what I expected, because it opens up massively in an unexpected way.
Really quickly as well. Really quickly, just because bang.
Yeah, like you start off in it's like a little cave area, and it is exactly what you expect: cave, rocks, doing these things. And you go outside, and there's it's
I can't
here's
be
an
the
open
only one who
world,
thought Breath of the Wild right at the start when the
I think
camera
they all kind of do
deliberately-
that now a little bit.
Yeah,
but
that
yeah,
only-
yeah.
They nearly all start in caves since Breath of the Wild. Seriously, go play
Shit, I
all
hadn't
the
thought of
survival
that.
games
This
from
one
last
does.
year. They nearly all start in caves, and you
Gotta
go
get in the
outside,
cave.
and the vista hits you.
But you've kind of mentioned the wrong Zelda there, because this world is not what you expect it to be. It's not set on the floor. This is a world based around floating islands. This is the Tears of the Kingdom upper levels. This is exactly what it is, and you are out there
I thought
on
you
a
could
little
say a
floating
different Zelda
island.
game then.
Oh, so the Skyward Sword option.
Well, yes, yeah. I thought you were like because I was going to say that's Lyle checked out, finished.
It
It is you that hates Skyward Sword, isn't it?
No,
I mean,
love
yeah,
Skyward Sword.
you could compare it to either. My natural reactions go with the Tears of the Kingdom option. So yeah, you suddenly go, oh, I'm not on the floor just doing my average base building, and it'll task you to go and find a few of these little flashy objects in the distance. And you think, well, how am I going to do that? And before you know it, you've got to craft a pair of wings, and you are flying from island to island, discovering as you go.
They're not called wings, though, are they?
It's a
It's
glider.
a glider.
Yeah, but they're
It's
wings.
called-
You're right. You call them wings.
Yeah,
wings.
because
but
they
it
are
is.
floating.
Because it doesn't glide. You
No.
can fly. Like,
Yeah, it's not a case of I think we talked about the other day, saying you haven't got a stamina bar as such. As long as you're within a given area,
Yeah.
you can just fly around freely,
Just
go up,
fly.
down, left, and right. For ages, there are tornado-y cyclones out in the distance, and I was dodging them naturally, probably because of Skyward Sword, to be fair. But you can hit those, fly up, boost yourself around, and you haven't got the limitations of I can see a.
I presume they were bad. I've never
That's-
once
yeah.
gone into one because I just thought they're going to be bad. It's a cyclone, and
Yeah,
I'm fine.
and
I'm
that
not
was
gonna
my
hit
natural
that.
reaction. I suddenly decided to just chuck myself into it, and off you go. You just launched off, and away you go. It's brilliant. So yeah, it will task you with going to these little glowy icons on islands you can see in a distance, preferably at night because they glow lovely. And you're building as you would expect. You know, you want to get creative. You want to go pick up a few leaves. You want to go pick up a few flowers and craft items. Brilliant. Make a little home for yourself. That's fantastic. You're not overly encouraged to do that at first. It's just a case of here's some things you can do. The recipes are very reminiscent of old school Minecraft to me, rather than the newer vibes where you look for an item in a recipe book, you click it, and if you have the items, it makes it. Here, you'll collect a few items, and if you look at those icons in your menu, they will have a little dot next to them. You put those dots together, and it'll go, you've got a new recipe. So you're learning them as you go, rather than being fed everything from the off. There is an act of discovery in doing these things.
I do want to just quickly add as well, and this is, I think, especially impressive because it's early access, is you can also learn the recipe if you don't have the things for it. So as long as you have at some point discovered the component. So let's say
there's knowledge stones like
no,
like
this is not
Sky.
even that. Not even that.
Oh,
Like,
right.
so say you have like Steve, give me a like what's the slate called? Like they call it something else. Like is it slate rock? Like when what the rock can be changed into
Sharp rock.
Sharp rock.
stone.
You've got a sharp
So
rock, yeah.
say you you've used all your sharp rock, but you click the wood and it will give you a little indicator that you can use the sharp rock. So you can experiment with that, and then the button that would normally craft changes to learn recipe only. So it's
ready for
really
later.
like accessible in terms of like it's not locking you out of anything. You will learn that recipe so that later when you've got that stuff, you can then create it because you've learned the knowledge. And I thought that was a really nice little touch especially for a game like that is very early access, I think.
Yeah, and that's not the only way you can learn things as well. You can pick up a sketchbook item.
Yeah, that's also very cool.
And then while you've got that equipped to you, if you see something in the world, say, even it's a set of steps or a little rope barrier or something there, you think, oh, how do I make these? You look at them, bring your sketchbook out, and you essentially sketch it down and learn how to make that item by looking at it and going, oh, I like that thing.
Early doors, I was like, I don't understand, like, you can craft paper. Like, why would I want to craft paper? And once you then get that book and you realise each time you're using a sheet of paper to craft on, to write your design on, I was like, this is actually pretty clever and kind of cool.
It's a very
I do
cool
like the
idea.
idea of being able to look at a lantern and go, ha ha ha, shh, ta-da, I can now build you. You know, it's like, it's easy to play.
Taking notes of the world around you, it's cool like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going around visiting island to island, and you are learning various bits and pieces from sort of like a knowledge stone type situation. And there are sort of hints in the corner, a little bit of guidance as to go and find these 4 bits of knowledge. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try and do this, follow it along, went along. and I found one, and they're like little glowing baubles on like a simplified Christmas tree to all intents and purposes. And the first thing I learned was a rudder for an island. I was thinking, what the hell does that even mean? So you take it back, you try and build it, and you build this giant ass rudder.
It's like the Isle of Wight,
on an island that I'd made as home.
On it, and the Isle of Wight is mobile. It's got a rudder on the back, and
Wow.
So what it's actually doing is you're learning these 4 nautical bits of knowledge, and you can make your floating island a floating home. You are literally driving your island around the map.
It's so mental, isn't it? Like
it's crazy.
You whack a sail down, you whack a steering wheel down, you literally do that. You literally go rudder, sail, steering wheel, lift.
Let's go, island off.
This is
a
car
flies.
Yeah, it's mad.
And it just flies, and you can go up and down.
The act of actually flying it is quite tactile as well, because it's got quite a nice control scheme where it's not too exacting. You are basically spinning a wheel to turn. You are raising yourself up and down, but it's got a sense of inertia. There's a weight to it. So you can't suddenly go, right, stop here. We're done. Jump off and do what you're going to do. You've got to start planning ahead, start slowing down, start getting to a level where you want to be nearby. And that feels really nice. It really puts you in the world. It's not just a case of, go forward, stop, left, right.
I think the thing that gives it away really is early access, though, is like, because I noticed when I was playing, it's very what's the word for it? So like normally when you play like survival games these days, I've noticed there's a trend in survival games getting a little bit easier. Like in general, like if you go back a few years to like the Long Dark, Ark, Green Hell, stuff like that, they were like you play for half an hour, you're starving to death. You eat a couple of berries, 20 minutes later, you're starving to death again. You run up a hill, your character's dying of exhaustion. You go in the water, now you're wet and freezing to death. Like that sort of stuff and that's why I didn't used to play a lot of survival games, because it used to just like, I'd think, come on, I'll survive more than one in-game day without a fucking handful of berries or without and that used to annoy me. And then you used to
if every game's doing that as well, you're oversaturated with that same game.
And the thing is, stuff like I've mentioned, like Ark and things like that, like it would say, make some clothes. Okay, I'll make some clothes. So how do I do that? Right, you need 15 rocks, 25 twigs, 7 leaves.
I'm pretty sure when I first played that, it didn't tell you anything. Like you were in the world.
Yeah, well, you just start combining shit. And
I think you had to punch the trees. I don't know if you still do, but I was like, that was not
Yeah,
something I thought.
You still have to
trees.
punch the trees.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Who loves punching a tree?
But the difference from that to this is quite stark. And like I would say that, in my opinion, I think they need to I would suggest they need to dial it back slightly in Aloft, because while it's good to get going very quick, like it is good, like I found that within the first sort of, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, I was already flying an island. And I thought, like, that's good. Like, that's great, because now I'm flying the island, I can go where I want. But then it was like, you just sort of fly to the next island and there's some more stuff. But it sort of runs out of steam. It doesn't run out of steam, that's unfair to say. But I think it should have paced that out a little bit more. Like, when you first get the glider, it's very easy to make. There's literally, there are crafting things literally everywhere. They're just rocks and stones and they're just scattered around you. And it's so easy that when it said to me, make a glider, it said, make a workbench. And I went, boom, boom, workbench. Didn't even have to look for anything. Then it said, make a glider. And I went, boom, 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 glider. Got a glider now. And then when it came to, I went round the islands, but I found I only had to visit 2 islands with the glider. And I had, because I think 2 or 3, I don't know whether it's randomly generated, but 2 or 3 of those 4 items I had to find were on one island. Just one down.
I had the same experience as well.
And it's got some there's a little light combat where you have to destroy those sort of dark seeds to clear the darkness off the island. The combat's very basic.
I was going to ask about that.
So far,
They've tried to, I think, because in all survival games, unless anyone can think of one where this isn't the case, let's go for Minecraft. You go up to a tree with whatever. Well, you can punch it, or you can use your axe, and you just hold a button and you just chop until the tree's not there anymore. And in this, they've added a little, almost like my frame of reference for this is like the Gears of War active reload. I know everyone's done it since. So
it made me think of Fortnite hitting the walls.
Yes, that is actually probably
when you have that element of like timing to hit the right. It's not the right areas, but it's the right timing to hit the yellow.
Yeah, there's something else that does that, and you use I think it might be Enshrouded, where that's got a similar bar, and if you hit it right, you use less stamina.
Right, yeah.
Oh, is
So,
that
like,
what's
you
happening
can-
in this? Because I noticed that every
possibly
like
is.
fourth, especially in the combat, because the same applies to the combat. And it's like every
Yeah.
fourth hit, you do like a different attack, like it combos.
Yeah,
with
like
something.
the character sort of flips the axe, and it's like
Yes, but I actually found that to be like, it's not. I'm not here for the kind of animation, and I just like. Could you just hit again in that?
It's a
You
nice
see,
little addition, but
Well, I found the annoying thing with that was that you would hit it, and then when you went to hit the enemy the fourth time, you do a little flourish, and the enemy would have backed off,
Yeah.
and you'd miss it with that,
Okay.
which what you assume is the strongest hit, you would then miss. But I think it was just the fact that I'd sort of found all this, and then I sort of on the same island, I found the sketchbook and the field guide. So I got suddenly I had all this stuff, and then it went. Make this island, make an island your home. So I tried to, and it said, no, this island's too big. You can't make this your home. So I went, okay. So I flew to another island, and
Get in
because
your
I'm
lane, Mick Fraser, go small.
yeah, and because I'm this,
Okay.
because of how I play these games, I first cleared the island entirely of everything, all the boxes, crates, loose bits.
What,
I removed
like
all of
stripped
that.
it down.
Oh my god, did you really?
Yeah, I cleared the entire island and left. I left the trees and things, but I cleared every other
Scorched
thing.
earth, are we
apart from-
talking?
Yeah, apart from lamps and boxes, I cleared it all. I repaired. It already had some like decking on it, which I
Yeah.
repaired, and all this.
In
And
your-
then it was
in
like,
your-
right,
In your jeans and what? Your
yeah,
overalls, hungry
obviously,
and
yeah.
shirtless,
My- And I thought, right, I'm ready to go now. What do you want me to do? Let's go. And it went build a rudder, and I went click rudder, and it went okay, right, build a sail. I click. Now I got a sail. Now click a helm, build a
In
helm.
my
Boom, I've
barren
done a helm.
land of nothing.
Yeah. And I'd literally I thought, well, where do I have to put it? So I thought, I'm going to have to put the sails at the back of the island. Surely there's got to be some science to it. So I went to the back of the island and I put my sails down. Then I went to the sides and I put my...
hang on a minute. Some science to it when you're
Science.
making an island fly.
Yeah, this is my thing though. Like, and it
You've
would
gotta get it
annoy
right.
me. And I kind of wonder now if I'd have just gone rudder, sail, helm, and if it still would have flown or not. But I thought... I'm going to be piloting from the front. So I'm going to be flying the island from the
What do you
front.
mean
So
the
I'll put
front?
the steering wheel at the front. And I'll put
What?
I couldn't help it.
I
It
had the
just
same
didn't
logic.
seem-
My wheels right at the front with a huge pair of sails either side, rudder at the back, job done. Away you go.
But
Yeah.
every island I
And I'm
went to,
like,
there
now
would be
I'm
one
like-
like in the middle somewhere, like up a mountain, and it's like this is a weird place for the engine
The
of a
trouble is,
car.
though,
but-
is you like Steve said, it's quite intuitive. Like steering it feels quite fun. You sort of turn
quite
and it
realistic.
turns, and then it comes back. No, but the
We've all had
size of
experience.
this island, it's like I'm piloting the fucking Enterprise from the
Well,
top
it's
of the
an island.
saucer. Yeah, but that's what I mean. And it is a bit weird. And then I was like, I don't know. I just think maybe it should have passed because I think that the act of turning an island into a personal flying fortress should have a little bit of gravitas.
That's some
to it.
theatre.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay,
It should
that's
have a little
fair.
bit of right now. You've got to go and combat this and like I said before. I played a lot of Enshrouded last year, and like everything you do in Enshrouded, it's very straightforward. Like it takes away a lot of the hunger mechanic and stuff like that, makes it a lot simple. But everything had like a right. You've got to go into the fog now, and the fog is shit scary. So you better be prepared. So you spend like several hours preparing yourself for this first journey into the fog. Then you die like 5 minutes later. But you do this. But it has that gravitas. And then the first time you make it into the fog and then get back out, you're like, fucking right, we're on now. I know what I'm doing. I can do this again. Whereas I found that with Aloft, because maybe it's early access and they haven't got this pacing quite right, that it was kind of just like, build these 4 things, whack them on, and they flying. And I was like, that's good. But now I'm flying an island. Like a minute ago, I was in my pants, like reading hieroglyphs off a rock to learn how to
in the
make
game,
the fucking
sorry.
And then you were
handkerchief.
playing along.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Same
what I was
joke,
playing
different
along.
angles.
So you go from like, now I can make a stone axe. That's really good. I've achieved stone axe. 20 minutes later, I've achieved flying island fortress. There's a
But-
little bit of a leap there.
So when you do the Zelda out of the cave moment, I assume this isn't just random. There's like a big island flies over the top of you. Well, floats across, and to me,
Yeah.
it looks like a tortoise of some description because all
Yeah,
those
it's like a
islands
big flying-
are chained together. So I assume you can do that.
I guess so.
Yes, at some point, yeah.
So you can
That-
make
well,
an
you
island
can- I would
train. Is what I'm
imagine.
saying.
Well, you can link,
Ooh.
you can make a bridge in midair, can't you? Because you can put something in front of you, stand on it, put another one in front of you, stand on it.
Oh,
There's no
cool.
physics that have to connect the parts.
No.
So you could link. I wonder if you could get to a point where you just link the entire network of islands and fly the lot. We're going.
Just dragging the whole world around with you.
You're
well,
now my
I-
kitchen. You're now my.
One
As much as I
island
know
that
you're
is
saying
just for
about the-
leaves.
And then if you've
saying
got
about
something
the
like in
pacing of
Windblown where I can cannon launch myself from island to island, I'll be sorted. But I don't
I've
think
found that because of it is relatively fast pacing getting you to that point, I've spent way more time homifying my island, which I
Yeah, I
wouldn't
guess
normally do.
that
I'm
is
not usually that
also-
kind of player too much. I don't
Yeah.
pretty things up so much.
See,
It's like,
I'll
get it in,
spend
get
hours
it functional, do the next thing.
Yeah.
I've spent loads of time just trying to make nice, pretty areas.
Someone will say,
what?
"What's that? That's my laundry nook." Do you do laundry in the game? No, but I can create folded clothes and place them in the laundry nook.
And it
That's
looks
what that is
lovely.
now.
You both played lots more than me. Like, I was curious because one of the first islands I came to had like loads of these boxes outside of someone's. Like,
Oh,
a
I found a
hut.
lamb. Did you find a lamb? You can find lambs.
Yeah,
on
I've
the
got a
island.
collection of
Lamb.
lambs on my island. I flew
Yeah,
them to go
and
and pick
yeah,
them up.
I did as well. If you feed them, you can pick them
Yeah.
up, and it says "send home," and I was like, "Fucking right, I'm sending home." I don't know if you can
The
eat
first
them.
time it said to me,
Oh,
"No, you're too far,"
not.
so I had to go and get my island and drag it over
And
to
what,
you.
and what does it do when you send them?
Did you think you could just yeet the lamb from island to island?
I was thinking of Metal Gear Solid like 5, where you can like, what's that thing called where they put the balloon on it, it just goes up into like, you just buy car, like buy lamb, you're home now. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think. I think in a world where there's a lot of this genre, and I know that every game there's a lot of every
No, but
genre.
this
There's just
is
a lot of
quite
games.
excessive.
This
yeah.
is different in a way that it has like a unique MO.
But they
that
kind
I've
of
not
all
seen
do, and I
before.
think that's what keeps people coming back to this genre, because it probably this genre more than most. Maybe the only other thing, maybe like roguelikes usually have some kind of a unique hook. Metroidvanias kind of do it, but I think survival games. I mean, last year alone there were so many, and I've played like dozens and dozens. But then you had like the stark difference between something like a Nightingale and an Enshrouded, and then an Aloft. And what was the other one I played? Was it the Viking one, not Valheim? There was another one,
Raven's
Ravenheim?
Watch.
No, Raven something. It was a different game. You turn into a that was the unique mechanic of it was
You turn
that you're a
into an
Viking
island and fly
warrior,
yourself.
you turn into a bird, and then you can fly from island to island in the same way, but you're a bird, and then you can Ravenhome. That was what it was called. So they always have these unique hooks to get you, but unfortunately the brass tacks level, once you get past that unique element, you're really still doing the same stuff, and it's how
It's
the
got to be
game
engaging still, hasn't it?
yeah,
beyond
and
that?
how the game parcels it out to you. Like, I always find that if I don't have a reason to do these things, like in Aloft, I found that it was telling me to do things, and because it was so easy to do it, I was banging it out, and then I was sitting there going, well, now what? And then it was telling me to do something else, so I just went and did it, and then it's something else, and I thought, I'm not feeling like. And then you compare that to something like Nightingale last year, which I think is already dead, unfortunately, because that was a really had a lot of potential. Whereas that game, that you had from the very beginning, it was you've been lost in this other dimension, build a portal to try and get home, and you've always got that thing driving you on. And Shrouded was the same. You need to get stronger because the fog's closing in, so you need to go in and clear the fog, and so you had this like driving central focus. Green Hell is just fucking survive because everything wants to kill you. But that I didn't feel that at the moment I don't feel like Aloft has got that thing where it's driving me to want to do these things.
Not quite enough friction.
That's got me, I think, because
There's
of that, you can pretty things up and look nice, and you have the freedom.
And sometimes that's enough.
Do loads. Maybe that's where you'll get most legs out of it, depending on how creative you are. So it's not normally my thing, but this one has worked that way because you can, there is a freedom to it. And like Minecraft, yes, I mean there is huge amounts of creativity in Minecraft. Now we've all seen it throughout the years, but it is blocks set in certain patterns, and maybe that's where that creativity is forced. Here you can literally get things, rotate them how you want, move them tiny incremental degrees. You can really individualize things. Maybe that's where the legs are going to be.
It will be very interesting to see how it develops. I will say that much about it, and it does run rather well on Steam Deck. I had some problems on PC. I just found that the frame rate was a bit like, not like it was low, it just was very jumpy.
It's a bit
I've been playing it on deck, and it's been relatively steady all the way through. And that's on medium across the board, essentially.
Okay, well that's it's a good thing.
But yeah, I'd recommend give it a go if you're feeling in a creative mood and want something a little bit different from a survival game.
If you've always wanted to drive an island, like
an island train.
Who hasn't, Lyle?
Yeah,
who hasn't?
He's right. I will say, I think don't hold me to it, but I want to say at the time of people being able to hear this, the game will be in early access on Steam, and if you want a more formal write-up or read of that, then we'll have that on GodIsAGeek.com. The last game we're going to talk about this week, I feel like I almost need to issue some sort of apology before we start talking about it. It's not a new game. It's not a remake of an old game. It's not early access. It came out in 2022.
We didn't review it somehow.
We didn't even review it somehow. It completely passed everyone by. I think the only way of saying it is devoured it, including the DLC, in less than a week. I want to almost apologise for missing it. Citizen Sleeper, Mick, you and I have been playing.
Yeah. Fucking phenomenal.
What a video game. Listen, it's the first podcast of the year. So where would we be if I didn't make some sort of bold statement that people immediately said you're talking bollocks about? When I finished this and the DLC, it genuinely moved me to the point where I was like, not in that way of we've talked about where like God of War leaves you the first time you finish that game, you sat there going, well, nothing's going to touch this now. How do I carry on playing games without this? But in the way that the writing is. Look, I'll just say it outright. I think, and I only finished it a week ago, so like it might be too soon to say it, but I am left with the lingering impression that this might be the best writing I've ever seen in a video game.
Wow, bold.
I cannot get over the level of like it imbued me with much of this game is text on a screen. Okay, with ambient sort of music by the way, the soundtrack's awesome. There are game mechanics, but much of the game that pulls you in and makes you want to continue is the words on the screen, the characters created, the story, the universe that's been created. When I finished it, like I said, done all of the story, done all the DLC, it imbued me with this weird sense of both melancholy, but also like hope. It almost made me feel hopeful for the future in real life. I know that's a weird thing to say, but like just the way the story ends, I wouldn't say what I got was like, oh, and they all live happily ever after. It also wasn't this devastating loss. It was almost like, that's real life. You win some, you lose some, and the important thing is that you keep going and there's hope, and that even though it feels like you're in the shit, there's hope. And it really imbued me with that. And I sort of sat there like, I just didn't know I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know what to do with what it had made me feel. And I think that's all in the writing, because this is reacting at that point to just text and the music combination.
Yeah. See, I haven't finished it yet. I must have played about 3 hours ish. Mm-hmm. And I think it's only probably about 6 or 7 hours, even with the DLC. I don't think it's a very long game at all. Obviously, it's got a heap of replayability. I mean, actually, so I say that as a sort of a knee-jerk thing, because you can go back and you can play this game and make different choices. Like you could go back and you can pick, because you've got, so just briefly, it's you play a sleeper, and a sleeper is essentially a robotic body on a space that's been sent to space, that's had a person's consciousness downloaded into the body, right? And the person's body now belongs to that corporation. They do whatever they want with it, make Soylent Green. I don't know what they do with it, but the sleeper itself is a worker. It's like it becomes like a drone, and it's used for experiments or manual labor, or basically, it's a shit existence. And your character and a bunch of other sleepers prior to the game, so it's not a spoiler. A couple of year-old game.
It happens before the game starts. It's
but prior to the game, your character and several other sleepers escape, and you wake up having drifted through space in like a cargo container, and you get picked up on this space station called the Eye. And initially you can pick. There's a couple of different classes you can pick, which sort of determine your. What am I getting feedback from? Sorry, I'm getting some weird feedback at the minute.
It's all right. Carry on. I'll mute it.
Sorry. Yeah. So so you have to pick a class initially. You've got 3 classes, and the classes sort of the skill system is quite simple. Are you still getting this?
Yeah, no, you're fine. Carry on.
So the skill system is quite simple. The skill system is quite like you've got. I don't think you've got 6 sort of talents, and you've either got a 0 or a -1 or a +1.
Yeah.
initially. And these sort of determine how easy or hard it is to perform certain tasks based on your action dice. You're given action dice at the beginning of every day. You get a set of random dice. You'll have 1 to 6 will be the value on them. You apply those to the tasks you want to do, and then your modifier gets added or deducted. And then if you pass, you perform the action. That's it. It's as simple as that. And everything is done the same way. It's like a visual novel. You don't see your character on screen. You don't walk around. You don't move around. You literally just scroll up and down the space station. And it opens up and gets more and more as you go through the game. Yeah. And you just click on nodes and you go and perform things. You go and do things. You help people, or you find help because you're often in the shit in this game. But what it does is, even though essentially, yes, you could go back and you could play this game a different way. Like you could go, well, I'm going to just play it through again. I'm going to make that choice. I'm going to make this choice. I'm going to choose that. But the thing that this game does like really, really well, and probably more than any game like this that I've played in memory, is you play yourself. Like do you know what I mean? Like you don't make choices because you want to see what the outcome, or I haven't played it and gone,
I agree with you.
I want to know what happens if I snatch the gun out of this guy's hand. I didn't do that. I went, the guy points a gun at me, there's an opportunity to, or the guy's distracted. I'm not going to go into spoilers. There's a guy with you, he's got a gun, he's distracted. You get an opportunity to snatch the gun. I snatched the gun thinking, if I fail this...
I didn't. That's the
But I thought, if I fail this, is it going to be an instant game over?
I did worry about that. I did that. But I think,
I just did it, and then the game didn't end. It rolls on, and then other things change, and then this whole new path has opened up where things are different. But I don't feel now. I'm not thinking to myself, I want to go back and replay it and do it differently and see it like I normally would, because I don't want to do that, because this is the story that is being told.
That's the testament to the writing.
A strong singular narrative for yourself, essentially.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You've got to remember that everything Mick's just said, and I 100% wholeheartedly agree with it as well, is all created by the writing on the text on the screen.
Yeah, it's all...
They make you, I don't know how, they make you so invested.
I don't play games I have to read, generally. I don't play games that I have to read. I'd rather there was talking. I'd rather there was speech or voice acting, or even just visual storytelling. I'd rather not read walls of text. But this game somehow is so fucking atmospheric.
I can't even pinpoint the thing.
It's so compelling, and I'm sitting there reading, and I'm clicking continue, and then I've got to make a decision. I'm like, shit, I'm involved in this story, and then I've got to make
it will give you a thing. Sometimes it would just say stay silent, and it was quite late in the game. Was like, I think actually I should just let them. I don't want to because may they reveal that I fuck up by saying something here. I don't know if I know you get that early, but initially I was like just communicating with people, but I very quickly was just like stay silent, because you know what I mean. It felt like it's self-preservation. You're trying to stay alive, like you are that sleeper somehow, and
and it has it has a lot of good mechanics where you need to, like the central one of you have to take a particular stabilizer in order to keep your body in tip-top condition, because the sleepers are designed with planned obsolescence. So after a certain amount of time, you've got a bar that ticks down as you perform actions, and you go to sleep at the end of the day and you wake up in the morning. And that the lower that bar gets, the fewer dice you've got, the harder it is to perform these tasks and make these decisions. So you've got a kind of ticking clock. Also, there's also a thing that every
game over state as well. Then,
well, I guess so. There's also like everything that you can do, like everything's got its individual clock. So everything has got. So if you go and perform, like for example, at the beginning, the guy who rescues you says, "I've got a job. I need some help at the docks." And you've got a little bar, and every time you go and help him, a chunk of that bar fills up, and then eventually you help him enough that bar fills, and his story completes. And these bars they're referred to as drives. This is what is driving you to do things, and it's usually to help someone or to help yourself or to protect someone or protect yourself. But every one of these things that has an individual little clock of its own that moves forward as you do these actions. I don't know if you can fail. I guess you can fail individual specific things.
You can,
but it's not like some of them are based on days. Like you're being hunted pretty much all the time. Someone's looking for you because you've escaped. That bar will just fill up every day. Every single day you go to sleep, another bar will fill up. So you know you're running out of time constantly. but all the other ones will be, sometimes they're based on time, sometimes they're based on how many times you do something, sometimes they're based on a certain currency you need to get to give to somebody, and then that will fill up. And when you've managed to do several days worth of work to get 3 of that currency of whatever, you give it to that person and that bar fills up. So everything kind of moves. And the amount of, considering it's a still game, text-based, there's no animation really, but the amount of things and cogs and wheels that must be turning in the background of these decisions is really impressive.
Have you found that you almost start min-maxing, like you're aiming for that thing whenever you have like 5 or 6 dice, but if you have a 2 or 3, you're like, well, I'm going to go do that because I was less of a concern if I do fail.
Yeah, because you find that the hacking skills normally require 1 or 2 or 2 dots, whereas the harder manual tasks, I don't even want to attempt it if I've got less than a 4 with a +1 on it, because you also have your energy to consider. If you use up too much energy, you're too tired to perform tasks. I don't know what happens if you run out, because you have to sort of go and put yourself on top of the space station at the end of the day and bathe in the light of the nearby sun, and that recharges you like Superman, like a solar battery, and that sort of stuff is really cool. But I don't know. It was one of those games that I haven't wanted. Like, insofar as I've taken some risks with the choices I've made, like I said, there was the aforementioned bit with the gun. I was like, fuck it, I'll go for the gun. It went wrong and ended up with a bleeding nose and in deep shit. But I came out of it the other side and went, right, well. And then the next time it happened with another character in another situation, and they took this guy prisoner to arrest him, and it said go for the gun, and I went, actually no, because last time I got the shit beaten out of me, and I still haven't seen the consequences of that yet. So like these little choices but it's just really compelling, and it does a really good job, I think, of keeping you in the story. Like I said, it's not the sort of game that would normally immerse me, and I think that's probably why it passed me by initially. I probably saw trailers well,
that's the thing. I think you've done a wonderful job, I just say that, but I think it's a very difficult game to, like, I hadn't played it. I didn't really understand what it was until I played it, and then I'm like, okay, it's a visual novel, and then you keep playing, and then you get the dice roll stuff, and like, the reason I didn't get what it was is because I don't think I've ever played anything quite like it.
It's almost like a choose your own adventure
kind of
game. It's almost like playing one of the old sort of
Ian Livingstone type
like an Ian Livingstone choose your own adventure with a set of dice.
That's where you describe it. That's exactly what was in my head.
Yeah. It reminds me a bit of the books that used to go, oh, do you run or walk? If you walk, turn to page 7.
That's it. Choose your own adventures. That's what it's like.
Yeah,
100%. And then like it does, but then in between, like Adam said, in between this, like it's not all the choices. Sometimes you just there's just some really good, and like it doesn't do characters where. So it's very easy, I think, I find that a lot of visual novels or games like this that want to try and either pull at the heartstrings or try and build up an emotional impact that they haven't earned, or and if you've played enough games or if you've seen enough films, read enough books, you become wise to that kind of shit. Like you go, I know what you're doing, and don't try and tell me how I'm going to feel when you kill X character or Y character walks out on me or whatever. But this game is really good at making the characters not necessarily likable. One of the worst characters in it is one of the most compelling so far for me. I can't wait to see what the crazy fucker does next. But but he's an awful character. But there are some characters that just like there's a character who's like a miner who you help him get some work, and he's got this little girl that he rescued from an asteroid or something. And I'm just sitting there going, this game's going to punch me at some point. And I don't know, but you can't have a sweet little girl with a bunny called Bun Bun and a hardworking dad who's just really, really, do you know what I mean? It's like, you can just feel that at some point it's going to smack me in the face for being nice to this individual and his daughter. But you can't stop doing it because that's the character that you've built with as the sleeper. Like my particular, the way I've been playing the sleeper is the sleeper stands up for themselves. The sleeper will snatch for a gun if there's an opportunity to survive. Like the sleeper's a survivalist, but at the same time, it's not a selfish survivalist. So I'm also putting myself in constant danger on behalf of other characters. But the other characters then that build and they remember these, not to the point of something like whatever, Lem will remember that decision or anything like that. but everything that you do has obviously got a story that is mapped in the game. So whatever choice you make, and some of the storylines, they don't really. I haven't found so far that many of the storylines cross over. They all do seem to stay fairly separate from what I've seen so far. Like, I've got a bounty hunter after me. I bump into this woman who's all geared up with knives and guns and shit, and she wants me to help fix a ship. So I thought to myself, well, if I help her, will there be an opportunity that she'll defend me from the bounty hunter? But then I resolved that stage of the bounty hunter storyline before I did hers. So there wasn't a crossover like that I was kind of expecting or even hoping for. But it doesn't matter, because all of these individual stories, because you can only go to so many nodes a day and you can only do so many actions a day. So you can't go, right, it's morning, now I'll go to all of them. I'll go see you, then I'll go see you, then I'll go see you. You can't do that because you haven't got the energy, you haven't got the time, you haven't got the dice. You have to parcel out your time. And when there are certain clocks that are ticking away slowly, regardless of what you do, and you're waiting for, like, there's 2 separate merchants so far that will turn up on set days after so many cycles have gone round. You can't rush that. It's not a game where you just go, right, I'll just sleep until the merchant comes. Because if you do that, other sections of the game are going to carry on without you, or you're going to run out of energy, or you're going to. So it does constantly force you to go, right, I've got to engage. And then you do get to this bit where you go, I'm at the end of the day, I've got 3 dice left. I haven't got enough to go and do any work. So I'll go and do some hacking, get some data that I can maybe sell to somebody, or, fuck it, I'll just use my last dice and go sunbathe on the roof and top up my energy so that when I wake up in the morning, I can go out and do some work. And it's just it's a solo developer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the music might be done by someone else. The game itself is one person.
It really is, and I really am, because I know the second one's out in a month or so.
Well, I was going to say, there's a reason that we're trying to catch up. And play this before. I think January the 30th. I think the second one is out. I'm so glad I did. But it was one of those, I'm determined I'm not going to miss the second one, because everyone raved about the first one and we never even fucking blowed it. So, I'm determined to not let this happen again. And my God, am I glad this would have. I mean, I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, but 2022, I can't even remember what came out. I tell you now, I might have only played this game in 2024. It's the best game I played this year. I think it would have been a contender. I just can't get over how it made me feel with words on a screen. I know that sounds really weird, because books can make you cry, books can make you feel anything, but I don't know. I just the combination of sound, the characters, man. I finished this and I'm like, I don't just want a second game. I want the expanded universe. I want the Netflix anime of so and so story, and
that's what I kept thinking.
And I want books fleshing out what happened before the first game and why this S&ARP company is what the Sleeper stuff's all about. There's backstory. I think
that's a hell of an achievement to make you feel that from what you just described.
I think they're sat on a goldmine of narrative here. I really do.
I think sometimes, because this is a game I've heard about a lot, not heard a lot about it, but heard the name a lot. It's come up in various things I've read or seen, or people have mentioned it. I think when people mention sort of cyberpunky or dystopian games or this kind of sci-fi, I think it's come up before. And I'd always assumed something called Citizen Sleeper. I just thought it's just a cyberpunk visual novel thing. I presumed it was something like that. It was along those lines of. And I don't think, I'm not saying I was ever dismissive of it, but it never got me to the point where I was like, I wonder what that is, I'll look into it. I was never really interested. And I think only because Adam was playing it and said, you should try this because it might. I think you even said that you didn't know if it'd get me because of the of the reading, like the visual novel thing.
You like your board games and you like that RPG stuff. Exactly. And I think there's enough of it. I think it's very clever in how much, because it's quite gameplay focused. You are not sat there like a visual novel doing that with the X button. You're not. No. You are more often than not. You're zipping around nodes and, like say, min-maxing. They're clever about introducing mechanics. They're clever about making mechanics just a little bit different now, and they're clever about when they go ping, here's a long bit of text because there's a new character, we're introducing them, and they're going to pop up. And it's really it's very well crafted. Does that
And
make
you
sense?
find
Like,
you're waiting for it. You find that you're
Yes.
waiting for that next because you've
Yes.
gone, right, I've got a node here that's got 15 blocks on it, and I'm filling up 2 or 3 blocks every time I do this
Yep.
thing. And then you'll get to the last one and you'll be like, right, and you'll click it, and then it'll go to the next screen. You'll get some story and you'll go, right, and then you
Yeah.
read that bit of story, and then that'll open up. And then you come back off that screen and you look at the map, and there's like there's like 4 new nodes to go and check out and see what they are. And some of them will be like as a marketplace, and it's like you got to get some local knowledge. You could steal some data, or you could talk to somebody, but if your particular skill is too low, you're scared to talk to somebody because you're obviously on the run. But
So
you
have to
take
a
that
certain
risk.
path. Yeah.
And
but if you
it's
steal
just,
4 times, this will fill up red instead. And I don't
and
know.
then-
I was too scared to, but I reckon that
that's
shuts you
bad
off.
if it's no, if it's red, it's bad generally speaking.
No, but I mean,
it's
if
a
you
red...
filled up a red bar that's like if you're caught too many times, you won't be.
Oh
able to
yeah,
have
I
this
don't know.
option. I think
that's
I was
so
too
far
scared
I've
to
been
risk
lucky,
it, so I
but-
never. It keeps you honest. I would say, let's say, with the sequel out on again January 30th, I believe. I also grabbed it because at the time, and it may not be now, it was $4.99 on PSN. It's
It is
also,
on.
It's in Game Pass on PC, isn't
It is
it?
in
Yeah, is
Game
it
Pass
free
on
on Game
PC.
Pass?
It
Yeah,
is.
free
Yeah,
on
I've got
Game
it on.
Pass.
I've got it on PC Game Pass. Which I'll say is it's playing. I don't know what it's like on a controller. Playing it with a mouse is very straightforward because it's you just relaxed and click on this, click on
So I
this.
think do you use the scroll wheel to move along the ship?
Yeah.
So on PlayStation, it's just L2 or R2 for.
Yeah, because that is a bit. It is a little bit like scroll.
Yeah,
I mean, you can
it's
use
just
the
sort of-
arrow key, but
Okay, never thought
which
of
is
that.
fine. But I tend to because I'm sort of sitting here lazy, like.
Yeah, you can play it with a mouse, I
Yeah.
guess. But no, with the controller, it's just L2 and R2 to do the scroll up, scroll down.
I'm still intrigued with the bit when you mentioned earlier about with the merchants. From what you've described, then putting that idea of like a shop and a merchant to buy things from, I can't see what you're going to buy or how that's
So-
Food.
When you
And you also
when
mentioned like the plus
need-
ones and negative ones. Is it building that level of your character up?
No, so you need
No.
money for quite a few things. Like there's a character
Chits.
who's a chef, for example. Chits, yeah. There's a character who's a chef, and the first time you meet him, he gives you some food for free. But the next time he says, "Next time you come to my shop, you pay for your meal." And then
Okay.
you've got like 4 bars, so you're like, right, I need to buy 4 meals off him in order to progress his story, and they're 15 chits each. And then like there's a guy who like the bounty hunter that caught up with me basically says like you go through a rigmarole, and depending on your choices you can get to a point where he says, I'm going to be in a bar, I'm going to let you roam the station because you can't go anywhere anyway without this tracker telling me where you are. You come to the bar every couple of nights and you pay my tab or it's over. So you need to like and then he'll call you, it get to that day and he'll be like, you owe me 60, and you're like, shit.
Oh, see, I was too scared to risk it, so I just kept going there like a good boy paying his tab.
See, that's what I did the first
I
time.
worried
But
it
the
would be a
second
game
time,
over.
but because he basically called me a snot-nosed prick the first time I paid his tab, the second time I went back and he said, right, pay, I went, no, fuck off. I said no. So then that changed the story. So yeah, you do need money, but then you've also got, when you go and do some of these salvage jobs, sometimes you'll get scrap. Sometimes they'll give you scrap parts that you can go and sell.
Okay.
At the exchange, and then you build that money. And then, like I said, there's a couple. So I don't know how important it is yet. Adam will know. There's an item that everyone talks about quite a lot called a ship mind, and there are three or four so far, 3 or 4 different people already that I've got that are like, get me a ship mind. Like one needs a ship mind to activate her ship to get away. One wants a ship mind because if you give him a ship mind, they'll give you some money. One wants a ship mind because it can get him and his daughter to somewhere. So you've got these 3 or 4 different people that all want a ship mind. The only place I've so far found a ship mind is that the merchant that comes every couple. I think I found one somewhere. I can't remember where. I've got one fragment.
You get one story based, I think.
Yeah, you get one story based. Then the merchant came and they had a fragment. So I bought it, but it was like 150 chits, which is quite a lot in the game. That's right. And now I'm waiting for the opportunity to either buy another fragment. But then obviously I've got the problem where I can take it to a fabricator and turn it into a ship mind. But then who do I fucking give it to? Because I've only got one. I haven't got probably in-game time. Because you've got another bounty hunter on your tail that is apparently a fucking serious badass. I haven't got time to just wait and buy 3 more.
No.
So then what? So you're gonna have to make a decision, and it's just So it's not like you. So you don't earn XP in a traditional way. When
that's
you
what I was
complete,
wondering.
when you complete a drive, which is a series of quests that lead to a conclusion, so that's called a drive. And basically, it's called a drive because it drives you into action. Like someone will tell you need to do something, that will create a drive. When you complete that drive by finishing that action, you earn an upgrade point. So you use one upgrade point will change your modifier up. So you can quite quickly, and I did quite quickly, move everything from minus into at least 0, with a couple of things that I wanted to do because they'd been nagging me into +1. So you can go. But then you've also got, if you spend 2 upgrade points, you get like different skills that are like, it will use less it will use less energy when you rest, or it will use less. You'll get 2 data nodes instead of 1 when you do hacking.
Perks.
And then there's like. Yeah, and then there's like that's right. And then some of them it's like, we'll save up 3 upgrade points, which takes longer, and you get really good perks. But so you've got that kind of you're always moving forward. That's what this game does really, really well. There's never a point.
Nothing's frivolous. Everything matters.
There's never a single in-game day where I've woken up and gone, I've got nothing to do. I'll just rest until something happens. There's always too much for you to fit into a day, so you've got to make some of those choices. And every now and again, you'll get a day where you've done everything and you're like, I've got some dice left over, I'll go and do a bit of work just to earn some money, just because it's dead easy. Maybe I'll just go and buy something. I'll go and sit at the restaurant and have something to eat, and then it'll tell a little story where, because this cook likes you to tell him stories, so you tell him about your dreams and I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on. Like, you're being hunted by this AI that's within the system, this hunter in the system. Every time you go into the system to hack a node, which you do to get data to sell or to help people, every time you do that, another bar fills up on this hunter's tracker. And every now and again, it finds you. And then I found a secret door where there's like a vending machine that's an AI that's like telling you about what this hunter is and how to get away from it. And it's just really, really good. And I'm not going to say I wish I'd played it 2 years ago, because I'm really glad I'm playing it now. But I do wish that I hadn't missed it at the time, because it's really, really good.
Well, no, but just think now, everyone can look forward to us talking about the sequel in 2 years' time.
Right, yeah. In 2 years' time, yeah. No, I'll be playing the sequel at the end of the month. Yeah.
We will talk about that. Like I said, there's a reason we wanted to get a few of us. I think Chris White also started playing it as well, and
I think he'll like it a lot
as well. I'm like, I could go and jump on this.
It's very playable, and it's one of those games where it doesn't ask a huge amount off you in terms of like reflexes or anything. It just asks you to think and to sort of make choice. I'm enamored. That is it for a podcast. That's the first one in the banks, in the book. I don't know, whichever one you want to. Thank you, Steve. Did you enjoy it?
All good, mate. All good.
I really hoped you'd go, no, it's bloody dreadful. You're way worse on podcast.
Yeah, fuck this.
All of you, especially you. Thank you to Lyle, to Mick, and to Steve for being here. We really appreciate it. Not sure what we're talking about on the next podcast.
I know what we're talking about on the next podcast.
You
can't talk about it yet.
No, you're right. That is true.
We've all got 12 embargoed things we'll talk about on the next podcast.
Yeah, no,
it's going to be a busy
true.
couple of months, that's for sure.
It really is. Yeah, thank you very much for those who listened to the Game of the Year stuff, and if you didn't, still can go listen to it. It's not like we're banging about Christmas the whole time, so there is that. Thank you. Go and listen to them. And obviously, there's patreon.com/GodIsAGeek where you can support us there. Join the Discord. Send us some questions in to answer on the pod. Ask on the pod. Chat to other people who can all agree that we all should have played Citizen Sleeper 2 years ago. Yeah. Thank you very much. And to everybody else, we'll speak to you next episode or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.